Hi everybody and welcome to the i3net interview series. Today I'm meeting with Chris Dolman, who is a Business Development Manager, Clean Energy with BOC Limited. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here, Bianca.
Thank you, Chris. And also, BOC is also a very proud and valued partner of the i3net as well. So it's really great to have you guys on board with us. What we might do is I've got a list of questions that I'm excited to chat to you about today. But to kick us off, would you like to talk a little bit about your role and what BOC does, just to start us off?
Yeah, great. Thank you very much. And, really great to be working with i3net. Really great innovative partners and really enjoying that. So my background, my name's Chris Dolman. I work for BOC, looking after our clean energy business in the South Pacific. I've been doing that for about 3 years and been with BOC for about 20 years, looking at all sorts of interesting and wonderful applications from water treatment to space and all that sort of really interesting stuff in which we play. BOC is a really interesting company. We touch everything from food production to metals. We're in every lab in Australia, all sorts of weird and wonderful things. So, really a great place to be. And, one of those interesting things where no one really understands how much good you can do with different types of, industrial gases.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, look, such a diverse area that the company is in. And I guess that's why you've had such a long and interesting career with them as well. Congratulations. That's fantastic. Bringing it more locally, obviously there's a presence of BOC in the Illawarra. And I thought if you could just share with us some information about BOC in the Illawarra, how long the company's been in the region, and just a little bit about what's going on in Port Kembla.
Yeah, no worries at all. So we've been in Port Kembla in the region for many, many years. We've got an air separation unit down in Port Kembla, and that's the second iteration. So we've, gone through one and then built another on the back of local customers, working with the steel sector, working with the food sector and a range of other things. So our infrastructure in Port Kembla actually supplies New South Wales with things like oxygen for healthcare, all sorts of applications there. And we've also got a CO2 plant down in Nowra where we capture the CO2 and supply that into mostly food applications and even things like water desalination. So we've been in the region for a very long time, very committed to it as a key region for BOC and for Australia if you look at sovereign capability around the ability to manufacture in Australia. So what are we doing next? BOC have been very lucky to be awarded hydrogen hub status in the Illawarra. That was announced last year where we were awarded $28.5 million from the New South Wales Government. Effectively, that is what we're using to create a mobility hub and a stationary energy hub in the region, and also opening that up for other, difficult to decarbonisation areas so they can test hydrogen, see how it works with their processes so we can build those longer term decarbonisation plans in the region. So we're very excited about that, working with all sorts of your members and non-members, and really looking to innovate and bring some of our, experience in Australia, but also from overseas so we can, make these work. And they're all pretty complicated projects.
Yeah, absolutely. Vesna from the BOC team was very kind to share news with the i3net network when that announcement had first came out last year. So very exciting to hear about your focus on that project and the progress to date. I wanted to just dive a little bit deeper into hydrogen and find out why BOC is so committed to the success of hydrogen and why is there such a focus on hydrogen at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, really good question. I think hydrogen's a really interesting molecule for a range of reasons. We've actually supplied hydrogen into the Australian market for over 80 years, but we've more supplied it as a molecule for applications such as margarine, probably not a growing application anymore, oil seeds and a few others. Over the last couple of years, as there's been a focus internationally to decarbonise, it's also become one of the really interesting vectors for energy. And, we're looking at leveraging our experience with over 160 plants internationally to move to that low cost base, which we need for it to be part of the energy transition. you know, a lot of people see hydrogen as a Swiss Army knife. We see it as an interesting vector for a range of applications. And I think we need to be getting on with proving a lot of those, but also making sure we look at all vectors, you know, whether it be electricity, biomethane, and all sorts of other sustainable fuels that are coming to Australia. And hydrogen will support some of them as well. And we're seeing some really interesting stuff overseas in terms of mobility, some stuff on aluminium and steel. So we're keen to bring that experience to Australia, but also not to oversell hydrogen. I think we need to, you know, have that reality across things so that, you know, good projects work and everyone's focused in the right direction.
Yeah, definitely. I think that balance is certainly important. And you were talking some globally about some examples and nationally as well. Bringing it further to the region, how do you think this project or hydrogen in particular will benefit the region, our local region here in the Illawarra and Shoalhaven?
Yeah, I think if you look at our project in particular, you've got the, you know, initial capital that's going to go into the region. So, you know, we're talking over $100 million, probably closer to 140 when you include vehicles. We're talking about jobs. So, and these are new jobs around the construction of these new facilities. So you'll get new skills in the region as well. And then the ongoing jobs. If you look at what we're using hydrogen for, it'll be for local bus deployment, as well as bus deployment in Western Sydney. So that's going to have some further benefits around, you know, air quality, because we won't have any emissions from these vehicles. Also, doing it at the scale we're talking about helps the New South Wales government and other governments across the country understand how they roll out zero emissions transport, which we think is really important and why you need to deploy something at this scale. If you look at trucks, we're also looking to bring trucks to the region. Trucks are a really interesting use case, and we see hydrogen as very important for them moving forwards. One of the challenges we have in Australia is truck availability, given the incentives and disincentives in Europe and California in particular. But we think we need to test those trucks to Australian conditions and then be able to scale them up to cover larger trucks. So Australian trucks are generally larger than most regions because we have B doubles and larger. So if we don't start testing that use case in Australia, then we're going to be behind the world. And on top of that, we're also doing some stationary energy piece, which we think is really interesting. So displacing diesel generators, again, that has the air quality benefits, but also if you're looking at a stationary energy application, it might be on a on some sort of site that's near people, and it'll be silent. So you'll also have some sound quality pieces. And then we look at some of the other things we'll be doing. So we'll be looking at new applications as well. We'll be doing a bit of stuff with the steel and glass sector over time. And I think that helps those organisations on their pathways to decarbonisation, where hydrogen is acknowledged as one of the vectors they need to look at. But we need to get on with seeing how that works with Australian, you know, conditions, whether that be our ores or other things.
Absolutely. Wow, that's a huge list of benefits that you've just been able to share with us. It's actually quite exciting, isn't it? Because I think sometimes with these projects, you might just look at, you know, the construction phase and what comes out of it, but there's a huge list of benefits there that you have just spoken of, and you could probably speak on an hour on each of them. So that is really exciting. I think because you just touched on so many benefits there, and when people are watching our conversation back, there'll be different people interested in different things that you've spoken of. How can people, I mean, we've got more questions to come, but how can people find out more about this particular opportunity, find out more about maybe partnering with you on hydrogen? How can they get involved in this project with BOC?
Yeah, it's a good question. So we're finalising our engineering feed study at the moment, and we're engaging local vendors where we can in that piece. We're also talking to a range of people who might take hydrogen in the region. And the way we're approaching it is using this thing called total cost of ownership, particularly on the vehicle side, so they can understand, well, what the total cost of purchasing a hydrogen vehicle or leasing a hydrogen vehicle will be over the term of the contracts that will be needed to make this project work. So if they contact me, we'll have a very open and transparent discussions around how we're going to make this work. And we think that's the best way to do it. If you're hiding costs around hydrogen deployments, doesn't help any of our end users over time. So we're going to have a very transparent discussion with anyone who comes and talks to us.
Yeah, great. And who is that ideal customer? So if somebody's listening to this and thinking, oh, that's something that I want to do, but maybe I'm not large enough or too large, who is that ideal customer that you're looking for, that you want to have those conversations with?
Yeah, I think there's some different, characteristics by sector. But if I look at what we really value, so the first thing is safety. It doesn't help anyone if there's an incident associated with hydrogen at this plant or other plants. We will bring that given our experience in Australia and overseas. And we've also already got that Port Kembla site where we're producing all sorts of other gases. So we've got a lot of experienced people who are really qualified and really safety focused. Then we're looking for people who are either impacted by the safeguard mechanism, have really clear environmental targets, or are just looking for innovation. If I look at the trucking sector, most of them won't be safeguard impacted, but they might have customers saying, we want you to do something in the zero emission piece.
Yeah.
So anyone in that space, I think if you look at our wider application pool that we're talking about at BOC as well, I think if you've got an application where you've got a lot of CO2 that comes out of it, we might be able to help you, and it may not be hydrogen, it could be oxygen, and it could be a range of things. So, if you come to us, we'll get our technical team involved and take you through what we can do. And in some cases, it'll be no. But there's some really interesting applications we're looking at, even around degassing mines down in the region. So we're really open-minded to trying to bring our mature and emerging applications to the region.
Absolutely. No, that's a really good overview. And Chris, I know that you mentioned just before we hit record on the video that you did have some slides that you wanted to show as well. Did you want to, was there anything in relation to this project that you wanted to show now, or did you want to hold those off until a little bit later?
Yeah, I think I'll show a couple. I think, and this is an interesting thing about our project. So effectively what we're looking to do is repurpose some of our infrastructure. So if you look at this slide here, this is where we operate. We've got pipeline going over to BlueScope here. We supply, a lot of the state there, but we're looking at leveraging where we've got existing skills and existing infrastructure to be able to do these as cost effectively as possible. And we're looking to mimic that where we've got other air separation units. So we see this site down on the bottom right looking effectively like this over time as we move to having electrolyzers here, refueling here over time, and all of this will be supported by renewable energy from the region and around.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's some really good pictures there. It's really exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's nice to see. It's nice to see the emergence of repurposing some facilities to meet future requirements, particularly in decarbonisation, as we all move to that, given the importance.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they're great. Thank you for showing those. It's really exciting to see.
I think the only thing that the artist impression looks like it's got an apple grove out the front of the facility. I'm not sure that'll go in, but it's it shows what things will look like in the future.
Totally. I like that. That's what we always need, more apples. That's good if we can get them across the line. With a project of this scale and with all of the parts, I'm guessing that partnerships is a key area that BOC and yourself is really focused on. How are you approaching that element in this big project?
Yeah, I think we're using some learnings to start with from our own projects, but also what we've seen overseas and in Australia. We've probably seen too many projects where people have bought a hydrogen truck or vehicle to Australia, but no refueler, or they've bought a refueler and no trucks. So we're focusing on the end-to-end supply chain. So we've got really strong relationships with Photon on the buses, and they're looking to really invest in the region as well. I'm sure you've met Neil and the gang.
Yes.
And we think, the reason why we work with them is they've got over 1,000 buses already on the road. So it's tested equipment. We know how much it's going to cost. So everyone goes into it open-minded, and it gives us the opportunity to build infrastructure in the region. And we know they're looking to do that. If you look at trucks, again, we're working with those trusted OEMs who have brought trucks to market in different regions. That's a little bit more complicated because of all the European and California legislation that comes in, but we'll be bringing trucks that are tested and have got experience into the region, which I think adds a lot of value and it de-risks it for potential end users. And that's been our approach with all of this, to focus on new applications where you've got proven technology. Not that we don't see some of the new technologies as really interesting, I think, but for something of this scale where you're a first mover, having the right technology on the ground really supports making it happen. And we can add new technologies to it over time as well. So we've got some pretty deep relationships with some really good OEMs, but also some really good, end users in the region as well. So some really innovative trucking and bus companies.
Right.
And we've just enjoyed working with them because we've been very open-minded. We've told them the good, the bad, the ugly, the challenges. And I think everyone's really appreciated that. And there's some really ambitious trucking and bus companies in particular in the region. And we're seeing some really good ambition on stationary energy as well. So, we think it's exciting. But, because of the complexity, if you don't bring the whole supply chain, your project won't happen. So we've sort of really pushed the whole end-to-end piece.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's great. And I think that's why we're, from an i3net perspective, so excited to have BOC on board, because you are looking at that whole supply chain and who can contribute along the way and add value at both sides. So that's really exciting. Have you had any interesting people come touring through your site to check out what's going on? I bet people are always knocking on your door to come and check it out.
We work very closely with the New South Wales Government. So Nigel and Leanne in the region are fantastic. They're always really interested in getting people to see what we're doing. We've been lucky enough to have some senior ministers from both the federal and state piece there from both sides of politics, which I think is really important. So we see this project as fairly bipartisan, which is really important given the conventional climate wars that seem to have settled now. But, we've had some really great engagement from ministers, whether it be from transport, planning, or a range of other things. And that's been exciting because it really shows that they see the region important, which is important for all of the i3net members. But they also see this as one of the ways that we can start that decarbonisation journey in the region. So, and then that doesn't even include the multitudes of foreign visitors we get. So I think even last week we had a group from Tokyo coming to have a look at the sites and what we plan to do with it. And I think that's really exciting as well, because it showcases the Illawarra to potential foreign investment for a range of different things. So yeah, it's been pretty busy. Have myself and particularly Nicola Taylor, who works down there, have really enjoyed our tour guide duties. But it's important, and it's great to see people interested, because industrial gases probably wasn't that interesting to people for a long time, but that's probably because they also didn't understand the cool applications we do within it.
Totally, and just how it's everywhere, right? And you just don't realise. So yeah, no, that's awesome. I wanted to, in terms of hydrogen projects, but also non-hydrogen projects as well, I wanted to find out from you, does BOC have any other future projects planned, either for Port Kembla or in the Shoalhaven, or just close by, that you would like to let the i3net members know about what's coming up?
Yeah, we've got a range of projects. I mean, to be honest, I think I need to get this one across the line first, Bianca, but we will do that this year.
Of course, I know that's there. Always looking for more for the members, you know me.
No, that's fair enough. So we've got a range of things we're looking at, at differing levels of maturity. We think, this project alone is going to sort of more than double the capacity of hydrogen within the region, and it'll be the only renewable hydrogen, so it'll be 4 tonnes a day. So we've got lots of product available for people who want to, look at that for their processes. We've also got a range of oxygen projects going on in the region. Oxygen's a really interesting molecule that's sort of, apart from the healthcare benefits, it's making a bit of a revival in terms of lowering CO2. So we're seeing people inject CO2 into oxygen into natural gas streams and reducing energy costs and CO2 emissions. And we're also doing some really neat stuff, and this is not in the region, but we've just started injecting oxygen into the Murray-Darling River to help with the whole water ecosystem there as well, and sort of get that into a much better quality position where it's got enough oxygen in it for the fish life and all that sort of stuff. So we've got lots of weird and wonderful applications, which we're really proud of. So I think if people have something that's interesting, then we're always keen to have a look at it.
Absolutely. Oh, there's some great additional projects. You're certainly busy. That's good to hear.
Good problem to have.
Totally, and all really exciting things as well. Is there any, sorry, I'm talking more projects as well, but I just wanted to see, is there anything as well in the wider region that you also wanted to talk to, anything that's happening maybe outside of your area that you wanted to just make note of?
I think we see the region as really important, not just from the manufacturing and sovereign capability piece, which we're keen to support where we can with different sort of gaseous applications. There's obviously some really interesting stuff going on in the renewable space. And for us, it's really important. I think for everyone, it's really important to get that right, from everything from social license to actually getting the renewable, electrons out of the different projects within the region. So, I look at the Hunter and which I know that obviously the Illawarra and Hunter like their competition, but I think they pretty well get on as well. I think those two areas are really critical for New South Wales and Australia to decarbonise. So we're really committed to doing anything we can to support that.
Absolutely. Two definitely critical regions for New South Wales, but also for the country as well, particularly for our sovereign capability and success. So absolutely agree with you on that one. So my last question is just asking you how people find out more and can get more involved. But I suppose before I ask that question, was there anything else that you wanted to share that maybe I haven't covered off with the questions that I've asked you?
No, I think, it's been great, to be honest, just to sort of share some of the stuff, we do, whether it be hydrogen or other things in the region and further afield. I think for us, we think we've got some really interesting things. We can't do everything for everyone, but I think in many cases, even some of those technologies we're sort of redeploying now in oxygen and other things are ones that have been around for a while, but now that you've got things like safeguard mechanism, you've got the need to sort of abate CO2, we've got some really interesting technologies that we can sort of throw into that. So some really mature stuff, but also emerging stuff. And I think for us, it's, be open-minded. I think it's really, really tricky to decarbonise, particularly in some of the regions we're talking about at the moment. So I think we all need to be, working together on a range of things. Otherwise, we're not going to get there. So we're open-minded. We're keen to sort of share our deck of climate supporting pieces, including fixing up any river you want. But it's around, we all need to be collaborative now because it's a really tricky challenge moving forwards.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with all the points that you made there. And I really think at the end of the day, it's about progress, not about perfection. It's about just taking the steps, moving forward, but then also working together. No one organisation can achieve it all. And it's about those partnerships. And I think that's one thing that has really impressed me about the team, yourself and the team at BOC, is just how approachable you guys are. And, you can just pick up the phone and call you or email you, and the team do get back in contact and do speak honestly and plainly about things. So I think that's fantastic for an organisation of the size of BOC to be able to have those good, honest conversations with you guys is really great.
Oh, thank you very much. We try to.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
it's a good space to be in as well. And there's so many really good opportunities, but they're complex. So, if you don't go into it open, then you're just not going to succeed in many of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I will get to my last question now, which I kind of asked before. So how would you like people to find out more about BOC? Is it just reaching out to you? Do you have a supplier of interest page? How does it work at BOC?
I'm happy for people in the region to reach out to myself. Then I can work with our various technical teams to work out if there's an application of choice. Very keen to talk to anyone who's interested in hydrogen, but also if they've got other decarbonisation things they're looking at, and we can, have that open conversation about whether we do have some technology that can help them or not. And, even for the food customers, we do a lot of stuff with food freezing. So if you think there's a gas application that could help you, we're happy to look at that. And, we also, as a, young dad, I also thank the region for supplying CO2, which is pivotal to chicken nugget production in Australia. So it's a really important application.
Absolutely. That's hilarious. Well, I wasn't expecting to go there on this conversation, but why not? Oh, hilarious. Well, thank you, Chris, so much for your time. What I'll do is I'll make sure that below the video and everywhere we put it, we'll pop your contact details down. So thank you so much for your time, and we really do value you and the BOC team being such an active and valuable part of the network. It's great to have you guys on board.
Thank you very much, and look forward to working with you and all of the members into the future.
Fantastic. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.